All right. So Becky did a good job of going through my background, so I'm not going to spend any of my 10 minutes with the background stump speech. You know, for those of you that know me, know that one of the first things that fell on my desk as a state senator was Senate Bill 5. You know, in 2011, I was 2 years into my term and was the ranking member on the insurance committee. They put it on my desk and they said, Joe, this is going to be your fight. You're a workers' comp lawyer that's advocated for workers' rights, and we need you desperately. Working people need a voice in this. And so we worked incredibly hard every single day, poking holes in their argument, trying to advocate for working class people, showing people real examples of folks on the ground across the state that were just trying to make a living, that were just trying to put food on their table. They tried to paint teachers as lazy part-time workers. And so I tried to bring teachers to the State House every single day to explain, to show them where your heart was, to show the people in those committees that your heart was with the kids. And although we were narrowly defeated in the Senate, the people had the opportunity to override the legislators' bad behavior and the sloppy behavior because they didn't calculate, they didn't calculate that you would be locking arms with police and fire, that you would be locking arms with public employees, that you would stand strong and fight back. And so that was something that early on in my career was very, very powerful. But then I started going around the state and I started looking at education policy. You know, being from Youngstown and being from the Mahoning Valley, I was seeing all of these for-profit models that seemed like they were falling out of the sky. I would see an old Catholic school that was empty for 15 years in a rough part of town that would get bought by ABC Academy or some sort of initialed school that they would just put a little sign on the front and all of a sudden it would be open for business. I would see flyers that were going around neighborhoods. I would see yard signs. I would see billboards, come to our tuition-free academy. And these parents were being sold a bill of goods that wasn't true. And so I would go to these places and I would see the insides of these places and I would see that it was just a bunch of desks thrown in there with some teachers that looked like they were walking on eggshells because it was their first job, and their principals and their superintendents were telling them that if they didn't find the kids to fill the school, then they didn't have a job. And so in 2011, I put forward a bill that said, if you want to be a school in Ohio, that's fine, but you got to follow the same rules as a public school down the street. We didn't get much traction with that one, so we tried one that said, if you want to be a for-profit charter school in Ohio, you can only take kids from the public schools that have a lower grade than you have. They didn't like that one either because it made sense. So we continued to move 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15 with accountability and transparency pieces for for-profit charter schools. Finally, you saw that House Bill 2 passed in 2015, and a bunch of members of the majority were giving each other high fives and slapping each other on the back like they did something about accountability and transparency. That was just all the stuff we were talking about before. They watered it down a little bit and they passed it. So the fight is not over for accountability and transparency. Go ahead. I like claps. We're good. We're feeling good. So then we moved on to econ. So I was going through and talking to parents and talking to families across the state. We did something called Columbus to the Classroom, where I went to school districts across the state and talked to parents. I talked to teachers. I talked to administrators. I talked to kids about what was going on in their particular district. And we learned that a lot of these schools, specifically in the rural areas, were losing numbers and numbers of kids to these for-profit electronic schools. Kids sitting in their living room in front of a computer screen and only having to check in the morning and getting the same amount of money as the public school down the street, but they don't have to pay for buses. They don't have to pay for food for the kids. They don't have to pay to heat the schools. And so I put out a provision that said, look, we need to change the way that we're looking at electronic learning. If you want to be an electronic model, then you have to actually tell us what you're doing with the kids throughout the day. You don't just get paid if they check in the morning and ride their bike around the neighborhood all day or go lay on the couch and watch TV. And finally, with the media's help, the Dispatch did a great job, the Plain Dealer did a great job, the Akron Beacon Journal did a great job. We were putting pressure on these guys, and I told Governor Kasich, the walls are closing in on you on ECOT. And so what does he do? He says, oh, well, ODE, go investigate this matter. They did a little investigation and found that they were overpaid $80 million for 1 year. And so that's just the tip of the iceberg. Now, I know that you've been through a lot. I know that you have to teach your kids during the day and then be lobbyists at night. You have to work through these political meetings. You have to work through your representatives, your senators, and advocate for your kids. And that makes it tough. But we are at a turning point here. We are at a tipping point. If we don't change the way we're funding education, if we don't change the way that we're dealing with evaluations in the classroom, if we don't change the way we're dealing with education in Ohio, we are going to have a lot of young people that are not going to go into this profession that all of you are into. And that's very frustrating for me. You know, some of the teachers would say that I was a teacher's pet when I was little. You'll have to ask my mom if you meet her. And I really was, because the teachers that I really gravitated towards were the ones that could think outside of the box, were the ones that could make a very boring topic exciting. But with standardized testing, a lot of teachers can't do that. And when I went and did the Columbus to the Classroom tour, I remember going down to a school in Southeast Ohio, and a student told me a story that the teacher was so nervous before the standardized test that she got sick in the bathroom. Think about the pressure on the kid when the teacher is feeling all that and the kid sees that. That stuff is real. That stuff needs to change. So when you talk about standardized tests, we need to strip that stuff all the way back to the basics. Strip it back to what the federal standards are. You know, when I took Iowa tests, you were able to see what you were weak at and what you were strong at. And if you were weak, then the teachers helped you, and then your parents helped you, and then you went to tutoring, and you did things to get yourself in a position to succeed. That's what education is about, giving you the opportunity to give the kids an opportunity to succeed. So look, at the end of the day, we need a governor that is going to stand up to a lot of this anti-public school stuff. We need a governor that is going to go out from community to community and work on behalf of our young people. If we don't have somebody that does that, if we have somebody that stays in Columbus and just signs cookie-cutter legislation that sounds good on paper, but you have no idea how it affects people in the ground, then we're going to continue to fall behind in educating our kids. We're going to continue to fall behind when it comes to recruiting talented people in Ohio. When I'm looking at this as a whole, it's about investing in the future. So all the bills that I have, I've packaged into plans on my website. So it's real simple. It's joeforjobs.com. We talk about how we're going to build a stronger Ohio. And here's how you do it. You invest in neighborhood stabilization. You invest in brownfield restoration across the state. You invest in clean water initiatives. You invest in our future generations by investing in technical schools and giving young people the skills necessary to fill the jobs that are here in Ohio. You invest in incentivizing business to come to the state. At the same time, you incentivize young people to stay. You know, I just proposed a bill that would deal with student debt. All these young people graduate with student debt, and they hit the road for another state to find a job. So I invested in a plan saying, look, if you graduate from an Ohio university and you buy a home within 5 years, then the state will pick up 50% of your tuition. It makes sense, right? You're incentivizing people to stay here. And so as you're cleaning up this state and you're incentivizing business, you're incentivizing young people, people start seeing a difference in their own community. That's what's been lacking, is that personal touch. You know, the good thing about this race is that the bar for politicians is set so low right now, it's ridiculous, right? All people want is somebody that's real. They want somebody that's truthful. They want somebody that cares about human beings. They want somebody that's going to listen. They want somebody that's respectful. Those are what you teach your fourth graders. So it's going to be a long race, and we're going to have a big primary on both sides. If you want to be a part of my team, I would love to have you. I need teachers in Ohio's support. I will always be there for you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for what you do. Have a great day.
Thank you.